Have you ever wanted to kill your husband for leaving dishes to soak for days on end or for ignoring an overflowing laundry hamper? If so, I have some reading recommendations for you. Today, I'm recommending not one, but two second chance romance books centered on married couples. First, let's look at Happily Ever Ninja by Penny Reid, book 5 in the Knitting in the City series. However, it reads like a standalone, so don't worry if you haven't read the other books in the series. So first, a little plot summary. A retired CIA operative and mother of two must save her kidnapped husband and her marriage of 14 years. And once she saves her husband from the kidnapper, she's probably going to kill him for not putting his clothes in the hamper. That is, if they both survive. This book has everything I love in a book. It's got comedy, romance, espionage, and of course, an uber competent female character. So a really clever aspect of this book is that author Penny Reid crowdsourced married couples' love notes to each other, and then she included those notes at the start of each chapter. It sort of reminds me of the couples that are being interviewed between scenes in When Harry Met Sally, which is one of my favorite rom-coms of all time. So really what I loved most with this book was the character of Fiona. Her husband Greg travels a lot. When he's home, he's the fun parent, making lots of messes, leaving her to clean them up. Fiona respects what Greg's doing, the fact that he loves his children and that he makes money to support the family. So what does she do? She does what a lot of us do. She minimizes her needs, she bottles up her anger, and she rarely asks for help, which for me is super relatable. So I don't know about you, but I literally once almost divorced my husband over an overflowing laundry bin. So yes, Fiona's predicament felt very real to me. And I love, love, love the way that Penny Reid expresses all of these intricacies in such a real way. So here is a little snippet from the book that captures a lot of the voice and tone. Of course he was gone. He was probably already in the house. I clenched my jaw and rolled my eyes. He was incredibly infuriating. I couldn't go in after him because he might mistake me for a hostile. I had no choice but to wait. So I waited and waited and waited. And while I waited, I felt myself simmering in resentment, daydreaming about putting him in a chokehold and demanding he stop discounting me. I was also going to demand that he put his socks in the laundry bin. Why must he leave them everywhere? Now, Greg. Reading some of the comments on sites like romance.io, some folks find Greg to be a bit of a douche, an insensitive partner. He can be kind of annoying in his insensitivity to the messes he creates, but as many of us married folks know, there is always someone in the household with a much higher tolerance for mess, and that person is usually pretty oblivious. And to Greg's credit, Fiona has never really communicated her needs to him or had a real conversation with him that would make him change his behavior. And this book is about her learning to be able to have that conversation. So I guess I found the book empowering and also deeply funny and relatable. So I'm highly recommending Happily Ever Ninja to you by Penny Reid. On the completely opposite end of the spectrum is the married couple second chance romance, No Matter What by Cara Bastone. So nobody writes love overcoming trauma like Cara Bastone in my book. One of her previous books, Promise Me Sunshine, is another favorite read of mine. It's full of longing and yearning, and it's so poignant, especially in how she handles grief and loss. So in No Matter What, Roz and Vin are an estranged married couple after a traumatic accident. Even though they live in the same house, they're essentially roommates, even sleeping in different rooms. Roz is really hoping that they can fix things until she finds a lease for an apartment left in their kitchen. So, this is such a beautiful exploration of how a traumatic event can render two previously deeply connected people as almost strangers to each other. I think most of us who have been married a long time have felt this at some point in our marriage. I have been married 25 years, and frankly, before I had my kids, I struggled with years of infertility. And then once I was able to get pregnant, I had recurrent miscarriages. For somebody who spent so much of their 20s trying not to get pregnant, this felt like some kind of a cruel joke. And so having this experience, you would think a tragic experience would bring you closer to your partner, right? Obviously, we're both going through this together. But no, I mean, a lot of times what happens with traumatic experiences is they isolate us as we each work through our grief and the trauma in our own way. And essentially, that is what has happened to Roz and Vin after this terrible accident. So, yeah, trauma and trying to keep love alive during and after trauma, it is really difficult. That would make this book seem like a big downer, but it really isn't. There are lots of comedic moments. One bright spot is the colorful cast of characters, especially Roz's fellow students from the figure drawing class that she joins to try to work through some of her issues. There's also her best friend, Raph, who's a great character and just so happens to be Vin's brother. Even though it handles some really weighty issues, it really isn't a downer at all. So rather than the dual POV that we get a lot of times in contemporary romance, this book is narrated in Roz's POV. We do get some snippets of Vin's interior life embedded in the chapters. And I have to admit, it was a little disorienting at first because I couldn't really make sense of what I was reading. But as the story goes on, what these snippets are becomes clear. And so, just one little con for this book, and I mean minor, minor, minor. Much of the conflict in this novel is born of miscommunication. Like, all of this could have been solved early in the novel if Vin and Roz had just had a serious conversation about the lease and what it is and what it means. I mean, Bastone does a really good job of setting up why that communication can't happen. Vin's character is set up as someone who's never been a good communicator, who's always played things really close to the vest. But still, if you have a deep and abiding hatred for miscommunication as a plot device in romance books, this may not be the book for you. So again, I'm highly recommending No Matter What by Cara Bastone and Happily Ever Ninja by Penny Reid. Do you have a favorite second chance romance involving married couples? If so, drop it in the comments. And if you want more book recommendations and other musings on motherhood and marriage, go ahead and like and subscribe.